Hello and welcome to Not Now in Theaters. My name is Will Turntail and I'm a writer and film fan from California. If this is your first time listening, I'm in the middle of a John Carpenter series, and this week's film, Christine, is the next one up. It's an adaptation of a Stephen King novel about a killer car and its teenage owner's descent into anger and madness. There are plenty of fans of this movie out there, and some people that even consider it Carpenter's best movie. So I'm excited to break down for you the ways in which I could agree or disagree about that. Before we start, a reminder that making films is hard and you have to respect that. So any criticisms are meant to be constructive. This review does contain spoilers. I'll give you a warning when they come up as best I can, but you've been warned as of now anyhow. Okay, let's get into it. Christine, 1983 review. John Carpenter's Cruise and Stephen King's Killer Car. John Carpenter's Christine, based on the novel by Stephen King, is an 80s teen horror film with a 50s flavor. It features a throwback soundtrack and thrusts the 1958 Plymouth Fury into the consciousness of movie car collectors. The movie received generally positive reviews on release. For example, you can find the film at a solid 74% critical rating and a 65% audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And the film hit $21 million at the box office against its $10 million budget, making it a modest success. But something is amiss here. It's said that Carpenter did not plan on directing Christine, a film he described as a job rather than a personal project. And Carpenter has admitted that when he read the novel Christine, he didn't find it very frightening. But it was something he had to do for his career. You see, this movie came out in 1983, just after The Thing was released. And while many Carpenter fans hold The Thing as his masterpiece, it's worth remembering that it received severe critical backlash. It was only with a reappraisal that most people saw its magic. So putting the pieces together, you can understand how this safe harbor horror movie appealed to Carpenter at the time. With the fickle world of filmmaking, he needed a career lift. But Christine's movie adaptation bored Stephen King, which might be a warning sign about its quality. Still, the film is loved by many in the Carpenter fan base, with a strong following that continues. There are even some Carpenter fans out there who name Christine his best movie. No, it's true. I've seen essays arguing that position in search results. So who is right here? Author Stephen King or Carpenter fans? Let's find out. Is Christine a good movie? The plot of Christine. Arnie Cunningham is a nerdy teenager who's a target for bullies and his overbearing parents. But when he spots a rundown 1958 Plymouth Fury for sale, he envisions a new beginning for himself. Against the wishes of his best friend, Dennis Gilder, Arnie buys the car nicknamed Christine. Arnie begins to obsessively repair Christine at a garage owned by Will Darnell. Soon, Arnie's behavior becomes increasingly aggressive, alarming his parents, Dennis, and new girlfriend, Lee Cabot. Can anyone convince Arnie to ditch Christine? And to walk you quickly through the cast here, Arnie Cunningham is played by Keith Gordon, Dennis Gilder by John Stockwell, Will Darnell by Robert Prosky, and girlfriend Lee Cabot is played by Alexandra Paul. And you can read the rest of the main cast here in the transcript, including people like Harry Dean Stanton or Roberts Blossom, some, tried and true great actors here in this cast. And if you wanted to see a trailer for Christine, you can do that with the link at the bottom of this transcript in the links in this episode section. I also put in some IMDb screen caps in there that I reference, and any external links as well. There are also a number of movie clips from YouTube for you there as well, in case you want to check out some clips of what Christine is like. So let's talk about what I like in this film. First up, you have to start with the sleek opening, which is worth 2 points. As the credits roll, we hear an engine revving like a roar. We open the film on a car factory floor. Christine and other cars are being assembled to George Thorogood and the Destroyer's Bad to the Bone. As the cars roll down the assembly line, the camera work highlights smooth lines of fiberglass and polished chrome bumpers. It's a scene like a peep show for gearheads. And there's a nifty shot of the workers through the side view mirror, almost like the car's eyes watching them work. But the romance is quickly over. Christine inexplicably snaps her hood shut on an unfortunate worker's hand, previewing her beauty and metallic mean streak. Next up, let's talk about Dennis and Arnie's friendship, which adds 3 points. The dynamics of Arnie and Dennis's relationship are solidly constructed and give the film heart. You can immediately feel sympathy for Arnie rather than just plain pity. His parents give him a hard time. He's a horny teen who doesn't have confidence with the girls. But Arnie's not just a wet noodle in need of love. There are a few stones in him yet. Arnie has the grit to convince Darnell to let him park Christine at his shop, and he ignores Dennis and his parents' protestations about buying Christine, going after what he wants. And Dennis is elevated above a brainless jock. He doesn't pick on Arnie or hang out with him out of compassion. There's a brother bond between them that works. Now let's discuss Christine and Arnie's mutual attraction, which adds 2 points. Arnie is fitting prey for Christine, the killer car, to manipulate. The picked-on teen is drawn to the image of cruising in an eye-catching classic, and with the clean lines of Christine, what other mobile could there be for Arnie? As time goes on, their bond becomes a strange love, and she helps him realize an assertive version of himself that you could see buried within his fantasies. Later in the film, when Arnie finds Christine smashed up, he's in shock and disbelief. She's totaled almost beyond recognition, but he futilely tries to stuff some of the window seals back in place. It's like a best buddy in a World War II movie, combing the hair of a doomed soldier with a gaping wound on the battlefield. There's pure love and emotion, but helplessness in the comfort. And now for the car effects and Jukebox's voice box, which adds 2 points. At the film's midpoint, the story ups the stakes by revealing that Christine can regenerate herself. It's an effect that holds up quite well. The effects crew used hydraulics to pull the framework inward and crumple Christine, then showed the footage in reverse as if she was regenerating. And though Christine cannot speak, her radio gives us insights into her thoughts. It will flash green and spooky, and an oldie song with dark connotations will blare out. For example, Little Richard's Keep a Knockin' But You Can't Come In plays when Christine locks someone out of the car. Robert and Johnny's We Belong Together serenades Arnie as if she were their lover while they cruise together. It's a subtle expositional touch. So now let's get into what are the not as good things about Christine. First up, it's Arnie's too rapid character shift, which drops 2 points. As soon as Arnie acquires Christine, she begins to corrupt him. But the movie slams the accelerator to the floor on his shift into darkness. Our first clue is that he's ditched his glasses, a typical simplistic change in character move found in everything from Superman to a reference I'm embarrassed to name. She's all that. Ooh, as if we couldn't see there's a pretty girl underneath those frames. It's also impractical. Can Arnie still see as he's now driving around in Christine? Apparently, all you need for better vision is a bad attitude. When you renew your DMV license, they should ask if you've had an uptick in feelings of badassness lately, and if so, are still wearing your corrective lenses. But getting back to the issue here, most of this change in Arnie occurs off screen. Dennis and Arnie's mother talk about the changes they've noticed in Arnie, with Dennis not seeing him much lately as he's preoccupied with fixing up Christine. And in a scene at a football game, Dennis is distracted when he sees Arnie roll up in Christine and start making out with his new girlfriend, Lee. But how did shy Arnie work up the courage to ask her out? We won't find out. Showing this change in Arnie's character as the film progresses would have been valuable, but the movie doesn't take the time to do so. Soon after, Arnie has gone total swagger nerd, walking around with his Rebel Without a Cause style red jacket and turtleneck like a vintage, edgy Steve Jobs. This one is called Arnie's Inner Conflict. It takes away 2 points. The film misses scenes where innocent Arnie is haunted by his personality change. He morphs into the jaded version of himself without resistance. He chokes his dad out without a second thought and starts calling everyone a shitter. You can imagine him being more alarmed by what's being drawn out of him, slowly turning toward Christine's pull. His inner conflict against the change could be the film's crux, but it's not even a footnote. We get some of Lee's reaction to the change, but she hasn't known him for long. Best friend Dennis would be a better lens for this, but he spends a lot of time out of the picture. If we had stayed more aligned with the beginning of the film, which is more of a teen drama, we could have seen Arnie's change through Dennis's eyes. Dennis could have been alarmed as the character change happens, hoping the good in Arnie could win out. This tension would make the story more compelling. Next up, we have the film's somewhat bore factor, which takes away 2 points. A few moments excite, like when Christine is ablaze yet keeps stalking her prey as a determined fireball. But the movie just isn't scary or satisfying in its kills. I won't be having nightmares about a Plymouth Fury rolling around the corner to ram me to death. And I didn't feel any attachment to the film's uncompelling victims. I didn't root for them to escape or to die for their crimes against Arnie. And while most Carpenter films bring novelty to make the scares fun, even when not spine-tingling, this straightforward concept of a killer car didn't bring out his playfulness. So adding it all up, Christine earns a total of 3 points. It's a lower score from me, but I'll give it my should I watch rating anyway. Christine is a minor horror classic in the genre's community. Still, even as a big John Carpenter fan, I have to go against the tide of opinion. I didn't enjoy this film. Carpenter himself comes across as ambivalent about this movie. This lack of love from Carpenter, acting as a director for hire rather than telling a story he has written and is eager to make, for me shows up in the film. It's absent those fun little tidbits of camera work that comment on the story or give us some good scares. But the script's flaws are the biggest problem. It doesn't focus on the shift in Arnie's character that could have increased the dramatic tension of the movie, helping to compensate for the lackluster scares. Even if it was a bit spooky, but moving, or even moving as a coming-of-age tale or whatnot, I could roll on with that. But it's flat on the scary and plot sides, which is not a winning formula for me. Strangely, this is one of 2 Stephen King adaptations, the other, Maximum Overdrive, with killer cars that fail to inspire. Good thing that horror and the works of Stephen King have many other vehicles. The Legacy of Christine. So what's the legacy of Christine? Well, many fans considered it a cult classic, or still consider it. Some audiences appreciate it as a Stephen King adaptation, and for diving into classic car culture, our obsession with cars becoming a dark thing. And of course, the John Carpenter factor will continue to drive new audiences to check it out, and Carpenter fans to keep it warm. One thing we can all agree on, I hope, is that the effects of the crumbling and repairing Christine are brilliant. Did you know that according to IMDb trivia, 15% of the budget was used to purchase the many cars needed for the film? There were 23 cars used in the movie in total, and not many 1958 Plymouth Furies were out there to begin with, as just 5,303 were made. It was a real coup to locate the many that the production did. After filming ended, the Christines were sold as scrap metal, but a surviving car was rescued from the junkyard, restored, and eventually bought by a collector in Florida. And then one of the Christines was auctioned off in Florida in January of 2020. Going back to an earlier comment, it said on Christine's Wikipedia page that in 2003, while promoting Dreamcatcher, Stephen King mentioned Christine as one of the 2 adaptations of his work that bored him. The other movie? Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. So yeah, considering how many people love The Shining, you can see that my opinion and Mr. King's opinion on Christine may not speak for all of us. Still, I'm happy my take on Christine lands right there with the master. But you can't miss the funny fact that King talked trash on Christine while promoting Dreamcatcher, which is a film that, ended up being a total box office bomb. I saw it and remember that it had cool ideas, like blocking someone out of your mind who was probing around, as if you were boarding up doors. But I don't remember liking or disliking Dreamcatcher necessarily. That means, well, I must not have enjoyed it if I never sought it out again. Did you know that parts of Christine, especially Arnie's neighborhood, were shot in the same South Pasadena area as Halloween? Maybe Christine's next passenger could be Michael Myers, aka The Shape. What a pairing that would be. The film has several differences from King's novel, such as the entire production line scene with Christine that opens the movie. The twisted nature of the car is much different in the book. In the novel, the car is actually possessed by LeBay, rather than just outright evil from the get-go, and it possesses Arnie too. Keith Gordon says on a DVD extra that he pretended the car was an actual woman, so whenever he touched it, he imagined which part of a woman it represented. Huh. Well, I wonder which parts he thought were which, but I guess that's private. One thing I did not realize at all, when Detective Junkins questions Arnie in the school parking lot, he's also driving a Plymouth Fury. Just a 1977 or 1978 version, which was a popular police car at the time. So it's almost like dueling Plymouth Furies are at work here on opposite sides of the law. And if you're wondering, Dennis's car is a 1968 Dodge Charger 440. Yeah, it's a lot cooler than Christine. Sorry, Arnie. King wanted to choose a Plymouth Fury because it was a lot less boilerplate than many iconic muscle cars or presumably vehicles like a 57 Chevy. And I think as an author, that makes sense. But on the big screen, man, Dennis's car is hundreds of times cooler. Granted, it probably breaks down a hell of a lot easier. For John Carpenter, Christine seemed to get him back onto his feet. He was able to bounce back with a solid success after making a masterpiece like The Thing and having that movie initially flame out. His next film would be the excellent sci-fi drama Starman, followed by Big Trouble in Little China, which of course, we'll get into all of this with the All Films of John Carpenter episode, but that movie found the same fate as The Thing. Told it was no good, everyone realizing later, no, this is absolute gold. Star Keith Gordon, who played Arnie, went on to continue his acting career. He had been in Jaws 2 before Christine, and after Christine, he had a part in other loved movies like The Legend of Billie Jean or that Rodney Dangerfield comedy they always played on Comedy Central, Back to School. He eventually turned director, but I have to say I don't recognize any of the films that he has directed. And definitely not trying to insult the guy with that, of course. All the films he's directed are better than the 0 I have. John Stockwell, who played Dennis, also continued his acting career. He was nominated for the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Writing for a limited series, movie, or dramatic special for Cheaters in 2000. He had a role as Key Livingston in Eddie and the Cruisers, Billy Hazard in North and South. He was also in Top Gun as Lieutenant Bill Cougar Cortell. Is that the guy that Maverick guides back to the tower in the beginning? I can't remember. He also appeared on Friday the 13th, the series, and lots of other stuff. And he too directed, including both Blue Crush and Into the Blue, which I find a funny combination of, I think, non-related movies. They both surf movies, right? Strange. Alexandra Paul started out as a model before Christine, which was her first movie. She went on to have a pretty long list of credits, over 100 of them, including movies like Dragnet from the 1980s. But her best-known role has to be as Lieutenant Stephanie Holden in Baywatch from 1992 to 1997. Robert Prosky, who played Will Darnell, is always memorable to me whenever I see him. You definitely know him as that Dracula guy in Gremlins 2, if you've seen that. He's in all kinds of movies, though, like Mrs. Doubtfire or Last Action Hero. I think he's the guy that runs the movie theater in Last Action Hero. And do I need to talk about Harry Dean Stanton at all? I think you know the legend. This was his second role in a Carpenter film after Escape from New York. So of course, Stanton worked with Ridley Scott for Alien, Alex Cox for Repo Man, John Hughes for Pretty in Pink. The list just goes on with Harry Dean Stanton. Lastly, the IMDb trivia says that Keith Gordon was nervous about kissing Alexandra Paul and asked her to practice first. That or he just came up with an A+ excuse to kiss Alexandra Paul more. I'm sure it was just for practice, but you could see it going the other way. Okay, that's all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I love sharing these films with you, and if you've seen Christine, what do you think? Am I way off and missing something and it's better than I think it is? You can reach out and let me know on Blue Sky using the link in the transcript, or just search for Will Turn Tail. And if you like this episode, would you please leave me a review wherever you're listening from, if you haven't already? Some of you have left reviews, and I want to thank you for that. It means a lot to me. Or if you're listening on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. New episodes of this podcast come out on Tuesdays. Next week, we'll continue the John Carpenter series with his film In the Mouth of Madness. Many Carpenter fans consider In the Mouth of Madness his best movie of the 1990s, or even go as far as to say the best of the late John Carpenter era. So far, at least. You never know. It stars Sam Neill as an investigator out to track down missing author Sutter Kane, who's pretty much a Stephen King, that goes missing. And all kinds of wacky H.P. Lovecraft monsters and demons start happening. It's a fall season of John Carpenter on this podcast, with an entire career of John Carpenter episode coming out, I think, in November. So be sure to tune in next week as the John Carpenter series, or Spotlight, whatever you want to call it, continues with In the Mouth of Madness. This podcast episode is production copyright of Over-Egged Media, LLC, located in Sacramento, California. Reference photos linked in the transcript are copyrighted by the Internet Movie Database. This review's factual information was gathered through online sources like Wikipedia, IMDb, or interviews. Misrepresentations and errors are possible but unintentional. Introduction music was Neon Laser Horizon by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. And the exit music and additional music are also by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com, also licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. The names of those tracks are Voxel Revolution, Dream Culture, and Aerosol of My Love. Goodbye for now.